Hey, what is up, people? All right, today we're going to talk about the five reasons married couples avoid sex and how to overcome each. All right, this is pretty straightforward, I think, because most of us are compromised here in long-term relationships. Like everybody can have pretty good sex in the first few months of a relationship, but add on 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. How do you do this? Right. So let's talk about why people avoid sex. Okay. And I'm going to lump this into two categories: biological and psychological. Okay. Biological, psychological. And two of the main reasons in the biological department are we have different sexual desires, interests, libido, etc., different needs. You're really into sex and you want more sex. I'm not. I want less sex for whatever reason. Okay. My body, whatever, my age, doesn't matter. Okay, that's reason number one. It's biological. Reason number two is biological, and it's health challenges, body changes. All right. For example, a woman and pregnancy, or a woman right after childbirth. A man's body, maybe he has a medical condition around his erection, his penis, and so that actually makes it very, very difficult. And maybe there's health reasons as to why that is. Maybe he has prostate cancer. Maybe he has colon cancer. Maybe there's just a lot of issues that make sex uncomfortable for him or problematic, right? So biological is number one and two. Okay, reasons 3, 4, and 5 are psychological. And there's a little bit of overlap with the last one. Okay, so I'll talk about that last. The third reason married couples avoid sex is fear of rejection and misattunements. So a misattunement is I approach you too quickly for sex and you're not into it and I feel rejected. And that happens enough times. Now I'm scared to approach you because I'm scared I'm going to be rejected. Right. And in that way, I'm like misattuned to where you're at and your needs and our vibe and our dynamic. Okay. So this is a huge one that goes on a low grade level in long-term marriages. Reason number 4 are resentments and unresolved conflicts. If you and I are in a relationship, we're not going to be having sex if we have a bunch of shit in the way, if we don't like each other, if we disagree with each other a lot and we haven't been able to get through our core differences, our challenges as a couple. If that stuff starts stacking up, it becomes like a pile of shit between us. And that's, man, it's going to be a lot to try to get around that pile, get over that pile, get under that pile. And really, a good, effective couple knows that the way to get to sex is to deal with the pile between us, which is the unresolved resentments and conflicts. And this is where people start to drift because the mountain between you feels too hard. It feels too big, right? Oh, so frustrating. Totally. And reason number 5 why married couples start avoiding sex long-term is they have psychological challenges sexually. So this bleeds in with some of the biological stuff, which is a man losing his erection, not getting an erection, or ejaculating too fast, or not ejaculating at all, perhaps. A woman not feeling like her body is ready to open and receive a man, if we're talking heteronormative language, right? And this can be because I've worked with so many men, including myself, around male sexual, quote, dysfunction. And most of the time, it's psychological, which means the guy is starting to lose his erection, for example, and he gets scared. He goes into his head and tries to figure it out and solve the problem. He overrides. He tries to hide it because he's ashamed. This is all psychological, just stuff that gets in the way for men, for example. Women might have a similar thing where maybe I don't feel attractive and gosh, is he judging my body? And now I'm like in my head scared to be rejected and I'm kind of freaking out over here. Or the man's moving too fast again, or my partner's moving too slow and I'm wanting to kind of ramp this thing up. And again, we go, usually when we can't figure it out, we go into our heads to try to figure it out. And that usually is where sex starts to get off the rails and it becomes really challenging for people, right? So psychological challenges, some of these can be, like a man losing his erection can also be a biological, and you want to tease out, is this a biological issue or a psychological issue? Or is it both? Right? You have to examine this. So what's the way that we're supposed to overcome this? How do we actually overcome this? Well, it's, I think, pretty straightforward. We talk about it. We have really honest, heartfelt conversations. Hey, can we talk about our sex life? Hey, can I talk about my part in our sexual dynamic? I'm feeling rejected over here. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling very alone. I'm feeling unwanted. And will you talk about this with me? Can we work through this challenge together? Would you be willing to do that with me? And this becomes, we start to become better communicators. We take responsibility. We're not pointing the finger at anyone. But some of us are very sensitive in the bedroom, and one misread of the face, or how quickly or slowly you're taking off your clothes, or how much you're participating and with me, or you're just sort of laying there. Like, we are so sensitive to how the other person's perceiving us, how we're perceiving them, and it can get really sticky and challenging, right? Yeah. So if you talk about it, and any sexual challenge I've ever had in my life, prior to working on myself, I never talked about it. I just went into shame and hid and did my best to not deal with it. And then masturbation became easier, right? Because sweet, I don't have to deal with another human being. Easier, but not nearly as fulfilling and satisfying. And I found in a marriage of 14 years, together 18, that it takes a lot of communication and really good communication, and it can still be challenging. Right? We don't have it figured out. And so we talk about it and we work through what's hard, and we go into those vulnerable, uncomfortable conversations. And if we need to give each other feedback, we do that. So when I'm working with couples around their sex life or individuals, good, solid communication is the answer, as well as the second part of this solution is we've got to get in the ring. We've got to get in there and practice. We've got to actually take our clothes off and just lay naked together. That can be a win for some of us. And we can just hold each other physically. Maybe sex needs to be redefined as being physically close with part of our clothes off. It doesn't have to always lead to the outcome of intercourse, for example, right? There can be lots of things we can do sexually to meet each other and work our way towards whatever sex life we both want that works for both of us. It has to be win-win, right? If something doesn't work sexually for you, then it's definitely not going to work for me. We have to actually talk about it, and we have to practice and put ourselves in that vulnerable situation, i.e., the bedroom, clothes off or partial clothes off, and push ourselves to meet and see what happens, and then talk about it. See what happens, practice, try some things, talk about it. Okay. All right. So I think our 5 obstacles as married people or long-term partners are very understandable. Okay. These are all very valid reasons why sometimes we don't have sex and we avoid it and then we drift. And it doesn't need to be this way. If you can communicate well and practice, I know that you can get a different result. Okay. I know you can do it. All right. Leave a comment below if this was helpful. And this is my first YouTube live stream. So let me know if you want more of these. Psyched to continue to try and practice here myself.